Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we are going to be talking about best 6-star champions to rank up for most of the game. As in, most specifically, this is a list of champions that I think just about any account should rank up for clearing content. This is not specifically for Alliance War or Battlegrounds, even though a lot of these champions still hold their own in both Battlegrounds and Alliance War. This is primarily for people clearing through acts, dealing with challenging content, be that Grandmaster's Gauntlet, the Crucible, so on and so forth. Basically everything that exists in the game outside of the peak of the competitive spectrum, really, which is the competitive Battlegrounds and competitive Alliance War. These are kind of the quintessential champions. Also, not necessarily entirely by coincidence, champions on this list are not available 7 stars. And that is a lot to do with their efficiency. So here I am going over 10 best 6-star champions that do not exist in the game as 7 stars and are absolutely amazing at clearing the game. This list is in no particular order, and there is one champion that kind of stands above to a point where I didn't include him in my list. And that's Hercules. If you are a new player and you get Hercules, you rank him up, you awaken him, you sig him up, and there's going to be a significant percentage of game that immediately becomes a lot easier, clearing most of the story content, playing incursions, so on and so forth. Great for aspects in Alliance War, aspects in Alliance Quest 2. So Hercules is absolutely a no-brainer. So let's move on to the next one. And these are in no particular order, but Human Torch. Human Torch is a champion that shuts down and absolutely destroys a large portion of the champions existing in the game. Just about no one, with the exception of I believe like Iceman and a couple of other champions who mitigate that damage, is immune to no flames. And that is it. If you have a Human Torch, you should take him up to appropriate rank where he doesn't feel completely outmatched, and I promise you, clearing story content, he's gonna wreck some things. You can bring him in either in Gauntlet or the Crucible, so on and so forth, and he will have his uses just about whenever you meet a Mystic champion. There is a very, very good chance that he's going to be a solid option. If it isn't Human Torch, then that's Scorpion. Scorpion has kind of fallen off in the competitive play, at the very least. In Battlegrounds, you do see him here and there, now and then, but he's nowhere near as dominant as he used to be. And that largely is to do just with power scaling. Scorpion's at its best and at his fastest when going up against similarly ranked champions, or ideally Scorpion is like a rank higher. When you need speed off him. But in general, the versatility in between the immunities, the access to several different kind of dots, the taunt, the petrify, the healing prevention, and healing himself. It's a very, very great champion that I think just about any account should have at a solid rank. And next up, Kingpin. For a long time, I voted and stood behind this champion as the best skill champion in the game. Now, I do not think that anymore. However, it is absolutely undeniable how much of a content you can clear with a Kingpin, in between his regen with willpower, in between his immunity to regen rate modification, ability to shrug off debuffs, access to unstoppable and degen, and opponents, attack mitigation. He is very, very simple to use, and he always comes in handy, even in the latest story contents in Act 9. Kingpin always puts in work when it is time to deal with a lot of debuffs, when you need the unstoppables, when you need the degen, and yeah, the man's a menace. That's an absolute menace. I do not think he's the best skill champion in the game anymore, but I do think just about any account would benefit from having Kingpin at a relatively high rank. So next up, Kate Bishop. It's very simple. Kate Bishop is extremely overtuned. One of the biggest bundles that the community made is not voting for her as 7-star initially. There is a lot of reasons for that, mainly because she was new and not many people knew, but the long and short of it is that she's great for just about everything in the game. She's still one of the stronger battlegrounds attackers in the game. She is still amazing for a lot of stuff in Alliance War. She's great for abreast content. She is absolutely amazing for story content too, and a bunch of challenge modes. The way she delivers method is fairly rare. It is a passive cold snap basically, and that's super helpful, as well as all of her other mechanics where you can, counter evade, get the passive stuns, easy knockdowns on opponents, which is quite important for a whole bunch of nodes. Again, she deals with all the debuff shrugging abilities by mainly relying on passives in between her stun and the cold snap. And the list just goes on. She obviously has a tremendous amount of utility should you need it, in between Tranquilize, in between Caltrops, and access to bleed damage. Not a lot of people realize that Caltrops is bleed damage, and it does work with a handful of nodes that require you to have bleed damage or bleeds an opponent. She does have Crush, ability to bypass evade and miss, and yeah, she's amazing. And you could make an argument for best skill. She is the best skill champion in the game at the moment. Overall, 6 and 7 stars included. Now, I do think that, her days are limited unless she comes out as a 7 star. But as it stands right now, I would say that Kate Bishop is the best skill champion. Next up, we have Archangel. Again, an antique of this game, really. Released in the February of 2017. So an old champion. Over 7 years old, this guy is in the game. Has barely been touched. He initially was actually stronger than he is right now, because when his neurotoxins expired, he used to have passive stuns, which Kabam took away. But still, absolutely amazing champion. You do want to obviously have him awakened, but yeah, you have an Archangel, you do want to have him at a decently good rank. Still a presence in battlegrounds, not necessarily every meta. Still absolutely a force in Alliance War, and in my opinion, absolute must-have for any account really. So there you go. Next up, we have Magneto, and this is a champion that I kind of didn't want to put in here just because I really don't like playing with him. But realistically, Magneto is terrifyingly strong with helping players progress. And I don't like using Magneto because I really don't like his playstyle, where he has a single hit heavy attack where you need to parry and hold your heavy even further for most part. But I have used Magneto in stuff like Abyss of Legends. He did great there. I'm sure he could put in some work in Acropolis matchups too if needed. But so he's very good for higher damage content too. He's an absolute monster when it comes to cheesing #metal champions and especially bosses. And I use him when I have to. I try not to because again that's like a personal dislike to the playstyle. But it is undeniable that when it comes to a lot of existing content in the game, he is tremendously powerful. Now, he's not a champion that, again, you would want to or do use daily, but he comes in handy, especially for smaller accounts where you kind of need champions that answer a lot of problems. And he's one of those. I forgot to even count how many bosses, for instance, he just completely cheeses and shuts down in story content. And again, you can bring him in different pieces of content. Obviously, you can play him in a multitude of ways without his optimal damage rotation as well. But the base idea is just get him to level 3, get a ton of prowesses, drop that, and either you're going to have a massive level 3 damage while armor breaks or a ton of bleed damage. And whenever you're going up against metal champions, it's just going to be crazy because your damage is improved, their ability accuracy is reduced, their ability is failing all the time, and he's a beast. Right, next up, Nimrod. Another champion that has kind of fallen drastically from the competitive ladder. Does not exist in the game as 7 star, which I do think would help him become more popular again. But for a while completely dominated everything competitively as well. But here's the trick. Just like with Magneto, I do think he's one of those champions that you really do want your account to have, because he completely destroys an entire subset of bosses, challenges, nodes, and paths. Alright, whenever you are playing through acts 5, 6, 7, 8, and you see mutant champion that is better then solid chance that Nimrod's just going to absolutely destroy that. Whenever you do go up against any nodes that deal with that has regeneration or that has prowess effects, he is going to wreck those champions. So it's super useful to have him. Again, another champion that, you know, has fallen off the competitive play, but I think just the sheer amount of content already out there that would absolutely get destroyed by Nimrod. I would say that, you know, if you are a newer player and you are focusing on clearing out as much of the game as possible, then Nimrod is a very worthwhile investment. And then CGR. CGR obviously is still a very competitively viable champion as well in Battlegrounds and Alliance Wars, especially when you boost him up and give him some Cosmic Power back boosts. And he's also a content clearing machine. He's very fast, very quick, very efficient, just nukes through his way. But he also does have quite a lot of hidden utilities. For instance, access to the Fate Seal when he's awakened, as power locking opponents and nullifying their buffs is fairly rare for a Cosmic Champion and comes, you know, very handy. Access to a ton of armor breaks and therefore also access to healing mitigation also for most of the fight. While Despair Mastery is helpful, armor breaks themselves, his Incinerate and Bleed immunities, his non-contact mediums, so on and so forth. He just works. Ability to bypass miss. Yeah, you do want to have CGR. If you are progressing through the game, get a CGR, rank him up. Another champion's Hulkling. Now, Hulkling is again still extremely viable in broader aspects of the game, be that Alliance War, be that Battlegrounds, but also just casual play. He's very simple. He's one of those champions that will help you advance in your playing ability as well, because you will learn how to strike opponents, block with him, and manipulate the AI slightly better. But in general, just a very efficient damage dealing champion that is also immune to plenty of things such as poison and shock and power manipulation. For most part, can do a ton of damage without relying on debuffs, and destroys just about everything in tech class as well. So yeah, you do want to have yourself a Hulkling. And the last champion, and not the least one, a champion again that used to dominate the game for a very, very long time. Not as much anymore, but is still one of the gnarliest and most powerful creations in MCOC. Now, would he come out as a 7-star, I think he would instantly regain a lot of his popularity as well. He's not necessarily the Battlegrounds type of champion, because his ideal rotation involves activating level 3, and that, you know, takes time, and speed in Battlegrounds is super important. But in general, just about everywhere, be it Alliance Quest, Alliance War, questing, challenge modes, an amazing champion that leaves very little option for AI to respond, and gives you a tremendous control over fight. Also, he has quintessentially all the standard, I would say, or all the expected and desired Mystic Champion abilities. He has several ways of nullification in between his aura and his stagger. He has power control. He has obviously access to dots, which is not necessarily a Mystic quintessential mark, but still in between power control, nullification. He has the right immunities. He's also like one of those Mystic champions that's immune to armor break. In addition to that, he's also immune to shock. Has some crazy useful synergies too. He has damage mitigation while his aura is active, which can often save you, when you're eating a special attack or a heavy attack, and he has damage cap basically built into him as well. Interacts tremendously well with Mystic Dispersion, is super useful without it also. And yeah, a champion that you just do want to have at your disposal for when and if you need him. So these, in my opinion, are kind of like the best 6 stars to rank up for progressing accounts. So we have Dr. Doom, we have Hulkling, we have CGR, we have Nimrod, we have Magneto, we have Archangel, Kate Bishop, Kingpin, Scorpion, Human Torch, and Hercules. None of these champions exist as 7 stars as well, so as of right now, there is zero worry for you to kind of like double up, like, ranking up a 6 star and then pulling a 7 star and so on and so forth. Either way, hope this video was useful, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about